now.
You see another limp here, it looks like, on the button.
Seems to be the move du jour.
Not a lot of information you can go off on either player's hand here. Just a limp on the button. And a check in the big blind.
It does feel like the disadvantages of limping in outweigh the advantages. It's generally better to come in with a raise, is it not, in terms of being able to put your opponents on ranges?
Yeah, so if I was to give advice to someone that's newer to poker, or if you're playing, let's say, like the Big 11 on Poker Stars or the Sunday Storm, I think coming in for a raise every time you're going to play is the right move. Obviously, we're in a 5,000 euro event here. There's some higher levels of thinking going on, so we'd really need to know what Lipéris is thinking as to whether I like it or not.
With the cards down, we can only speculate at this stage, but cards are going to be up very soon. Later on in this tournament, and of course, in the Bahamas.
It's such a nice build-up for the final day. You know, you see those cards up when you start the streams. Oh my God!
It's like being able to see the answers at the back of the book, isn't it? All of a sudden, and realizing you got them all wrong.
Well, this is the perfect board for Lipéris' lucky hand, 7-5. So weird that these two are playing so many pots against each other. Siljander check called flop for 6,000. No, he check raised flop, of course. Lipéris betting 2,000. Siljander raised to 6,500. And having taken that betting lead on the flop, he will barrel turn.
This is a spot where Siljander can reasonably do this with some nice queens, as well as, of course, a 5 is the most obvious hand that would choose to raise for value. And what's interesting on a board like this is what sort of bluffs are we looking at? It's got to be just air. You know, there's no semi-bluffs that are possible on the flop, so it's a leveling situation. Who has it?
Siljander can afford to bet 12.5k, of course, because he's got a huge stack in front of him, whereas Lipéris is dwindling away here.
Yeah, I mean, he's just called off a significant percentage of his stack there, leaving himself with 17 bigs behind, ace on the river. And Siljander set this up nicely, Jamie, to potentially just shove on his opponent.
It's a perfect stack, 35k.
There he goes.
Remaining for Lipéris.
All into call, sir.
Do we have an ace pre-flop when it just sort of limped along into the flop?
I think it's kind of unlikely. An ace I could see would be ace X of spades. You pick up the spade draw on the turn, you can maybe justify calling one more time with the ace high, but without it, there's not too many.
So what is Siljander repping here, do we think?
At this point, a 5.
Got to be just the 5.
It's got to be the 5.
Can you imagine if it was King 5 versus 7-5 again?
It's a 5 or above.
Well, there would be a moral to that story about limping in, I'm sure.
I still can't believe that we're seeing yet another big pot between these two guys with a pair of 5s on board. And the prospect of one or both of them having a 5.
So Lipéris counting out his chips here, probably to figure out what price he's getting. It's not usually a good sign when you need to figure out.
Maybe he's the one with the raggy ace. Got a little bit too clever, limping in instead of putting in a raise pre-flop.
It's just really hard to find Siljander having an ace here. I mean, why would you check raise on the flop with an ace, for example? It's a really good hand on a queen 5-5 board. You don't need to check raise with that ace high.
Well, it's the first time today we've had to bring up the decision timer. Lipéris has been in the tank for more than 2 minutes.
What hand are you putting him on then, Jamie? Lipéris, because clearly he has some kind of showdown value here.
I'm going to go with the queen jack.
Okay.
I was going to say queen 10. So I'm thinking along the same lines. Well, he calls all in. We're going to see both hands.
Fortune.
There it is.
Again.
Oh.
It was king queen, so it was just the queen. So Lipéris gets done by king 5 twice. Lost that huge hand where he had 7-5 with 2 5s on board.